Este es su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde Hermosa 1470 AM, 96.9 FM. Les habla Lilia Galindo, me acompaña Thomas Elias aquí en vía telefónica. Y I cannot see you anymore. Something happened. It's like
I can see
very dark, everything.
myself in the image here, but I don't. Yeah, I see you too.
I can see you. Okay, let's see if the imagine comes back. But let's start on because time flies. Tell me, what is the topic for today?
I think we should talk about the debt ceiling. The United States government today reached a debt ceiling of $23.8 trillion. That means they owe $23 trillion. And that's mostly in the form of bonds, treasury bonds and savings bonds that people have bought and that kind of thing. But the government has many obligations, and so it borrows money to pay some of those obligations. And it has borrowed money for more than a century. But it's interesting, the Republicans are resisting raising the debt ceiling, which has been done 72 times over the last 100 years. But the Republicans are resisting it because they claim the Democrats spend too much. But the fact is that out of today's $23 trillion debt, federal debt, 7.8 trillion, over 1/3 of it, was spent and was issued under Donald Trump. So the Republicans like to blame the Democrats for spending too much, but when they have power, they actually spend more than the Democrats.
Okay, I'm going to translate that. Bueno, estamos hablando de la deuda, el techo de la deuda. O sea, tienen límites para endeudarse públicamente. En estos momentos la deuda pública asciende a 23.8 trillones de dólares. Y dice, estos son, se adquieren a través de bonos del tesoro, bonos de ahorro, y entonces dice, hay muchas obligaciones que pagar, y entonces para ellos se pide prestado por dinero. En los últimos 100 años, 72 veces en 100 años se ha incrementado la deuda. Lo que no quieren los republicanos es apoyar el incremento de la deuda, del techo de la deuda, aun cuando es requerido, dice. Y de estos 23.8 trillones de dólares que se deben, 7.3 de ellos fueron responsabilidad del gobierno de Donald Trump. Así es que el hecho de que los republicanos se nieguen a pagar lo que el expresidente Trump contribuyó a crear, pues es una anomalía. Okay, you can continue now, please.
You might ask, how did Trump manage to spend so much money and borrow so much more money than anybody else when the Democrats had control of the House of Representatives for most of his term? And the answer is that Trump actually suspended the debt ceiling. So there was no ceiling while he was president, and he spent whatever he wanted. He borrowed whatever he wanted. But other Republicans have been similar. The debt limit, for instance, was raised 8 times during the 8 years that Bill Clinton was president, 5 times while Obama was president, but 18 times while Ronald Reagan was president, and 7 times while George W. Bush was president. So the Republicans borrow more money than the Democrats, no matter what they say.
Bueno, fíjense, dicen lo que no se puede, lo que dicen, bueno, ¿por qué se incrementó tanto la deuda pública durante el gobierno de Donald Trump si la mayoría de la Casa de Representantes era del Partido Demócrata? Dice, bueno, pues porque ellos, lo que hizo Donald Trump es suspender este límite, el cielo, el techo financiero, lo suspendió, y dice, y en el pasado, el presidente Bill Clinton suspendió 8 veces también este techo financiero. El presidente Obama lo hizo 5 veces, el presidente Reagan lo hizo 18 veces, y el presidente Bush 7 veces. Así es que, so President Biden can do the same.
Excuse me?
President
So what?
Biden, so President Biden can do the same that they did before.
No, he can't really suspend it because there's a different law now than when Trump was president at that time. He suspended it in 2017, and that lasted for 2 years. And then 2 years later, when the Democrats had the House again, they passed a new debt ceiling law, and that's the one they're operating under now.
Oh.
But no, people are going to wonder, what does all this mean? Well, it might mean a big recession. It might mean very high unemployment. But what it means is that the federal government stops making payments. And right now, the Treasury Department is stopping making payments to the pension funds of postal workers and military people and other federal workers. And that will give them another few months before they would default on bonds. And default means they don't pay off what they need to pay in order to keep their credit good. So what happens? Well, you get higher interest rates. And higher interest rates mean that housing costs go up. It means it gets harder to get a car loan. And it generally means a recession, something comparable to the Great Recession that we had about 15 years ago. The banks, which the banks are the people that lend the government most of the money. They, in exchange, they get treasury bonds. And if the government doesn't pay off on the treasury bonds, then the banks get in trouble. And who knows? Some of those banks may go under, and people might lose some of their savings. It's a dangerous situation, and one you don't really want to be in. If the government does default, the stock market would probably drop about 1/3 of its value very quickly. It would have much higher unemployment, and some of the experts predict that would last about 4 years, even if the debt ceiling was raised in the meantime. And it also means that Social Security payments would be delayed, and federal employees like U.S. Marshals and soldiers in the military, sailors in the Navy, they wouldn't get paid while this was going on.
Wow.
This kind of thing last happened in 2011 when Obama was president and the Republicans controlled both houses of Congress. And it could happen again now, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Bueno, estamos hablando entonces qué significa eso. Le digo, bueno, pues entonces ahora el presidente Biden puede hacer lo mismo para incrementar, para ignorar el techo de la deuda, el techo financiero. Dice, no, porque en el 2017, cuando ya tuvo la mayoría el Partido Demócrata, y pasaron una nueva ley para regular esta ley del techo financiero. Dice, y bueno, entonces ahora ya no se puede hacer eso, y si no se aprueba por el Congreso, entonces lo que va a suceder es que vamos a caer en una recesión, en una gran recesión, que va a producir desempleo, el gobierno va a dejar de hacer pagos a los planes de pensiones, a los militares, a los navales, a todos los que dependen del gobierno. Y dice, mucho de lo que está invertido en esto son bonos, y esto implicaría además una caída del mercado de valores de una tercera parte así súbitamente. También implicaría que los intereses subieran, las tasas de interés subieran, que también que las casas se volvieran más caras, que ya no compraran carros, que se dejara de pagar el seguro social, y un verdadero colapso ocurriría si esto sucede, y duraría por lo menos unos 4 años, como se dio en la recesión donde se creó desempleo durante el término del presidente Obama. So sounds really bad. What can we do now? How can we push Congress to approve this?
we need Congress to raise the debt ceiling, which they've done routinely. As I said, they've done it 74 times in the last 100 years. But it's sometimes it can be used as a bargaining chip. The Republicans might say, if we raise the debt ceiling, then we're going to have to make every new expense matched by new income. They may make conditions for their vote because this is all in the realm of politics now. And because the Treasury government is moving some money around and stopping payments on a couple of pension funds, it gives them a little extra time. But we need to remember what the main cause of today's crisis is. The main cause is that the Trump tax cuts of 2017 have cost the federal government $4 trillion so far in receipts. And that means that without the Trump tax cuts, we would be nowhere near the debt ceiling right now. That's how Trump spent most of that money. He gave it away to the rich people who benefit from those tax cuts. And about 80% of the benefit of the 2017 tax cuts went to people in the top 1% of income in this country. So a lot of what's happening now, even though you don't hear Trump's name mentioned very much, it's basically Trump's fault.
Ajá, bueno, ahora lo que va a suceder es una negociación que permita que apruebe el Congreso este incremento en el techo financiero. Dice, y bueno, pues eso va a ser algo que se va a tener que negociar, pero hay que recordar que este gran déficit se debe también a que el expresidente Trump cortó el impuesto, les redujo el impuesto a los más millonarios, y eso se hizo en el 2017 y costó $4 trillones, que fueron la mayoría al 1% más rico de este país. Entonces es lo que está sucediendo y queremos que se haga una negociación. Well, Tom, time is gone. Thank you so much for your participation. Let's talk about next week to see when this happens, okay?
We'll talk. Okay, very good, Lilia.
Hasta la vista. Thank you for the information. It was very useful. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.